This conference will now be recorded.
Are you ready, EJ?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are, President Williams.
Yes, we are, President Williams.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do, President Williams.
Okay,
Yes, we do.
well, I will go ahead and open up the meeting. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us at our regular board meeting of the West Basin Municipal Water District.
Being recorded.
I will now. And I think I hear an echo on there. Okay, we have a quorum, and I'd like to call on Director Deere to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Deere.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Now we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, public comment. Mr. Caldwell, are there any public comments out there?
Yes, President Williams, we actually have a couple of guests here today that would like to speak in a public comment. We also have received a couple of emails that will be read in the record. So if I can have Director Matthews queue up our speakers.
Okay, and they have been notified that they have 3 minutes to speak. Hello?
And they've been notified, they have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, they have, Director.
Okay, well, thank you. Call the first speaker, please.
Thank you. The first speaker is Patricia McPherson.
Hi, you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Patricia McPherson. I'm president of Grassroots Coalition. I've been engaged on Ballona wetlands issues for the past 30 years, including all the underground gas storage issues. And we have requested, which it looks like we'll be able to come before you and have a presentation next month. And in the meantime, I have sent in information regarding the Ballona wetlands. We are aware of your letter of support to CDFW for their activities on Ballona wetlands, but we would like to be able to share with you further information and thank Ms. Gray for the invitation to come do that. I also wanted to bring to your attention today on May 27th of this year, there was a Coastal Conservancy meeting where CDFW, the director, acknowledged that the evaluation of freshwater alternatives for Ballona's restoration had not been done, but instead it was discarded early on. And in part, or perhaps a large part for them, was because they were not lead agency on this until 2012. All of the studies that were done on Ballona were through the Coastal Conservancy and a private business known as the Bay Foundation, which had essentially completed all their studies by the time the Department of Fish and Game, which is now Fish and Wildlife, came on board. And we do have great concerns over the freshwater aquifers. The information that I sent you, that I hope all of you received, according to the board secretary, it was passed out to all of you, and I sent you one of the Department of Water Resources maps showing, it shows a cut view version of Playa Vista all the way on out to the ocean, so you can see the underlying freshwater aquifers, Silverado, Bellflower, and Ballona. Ballona is a groundwater-dependent ecosystem that we know from old studies now that have become available and other studies that were done for the Ballona's restoration. So what we're looking for, because Santa Monica Basin is already undergoing a groundwater sustainability planning process, we'd like to include the Venice subbasin as part of that in order to protect the fresh groundwater resources, including as U.S. Fish and Wildlife sites to stop the diversion of waters away from Baiona that the adjacent development site is doing, the Playa Vista site, and have all of these waters simply restored to Baiona, and to ensure that no further contamination of the aquifers occurs through that area. I'm not sure of my time here, but
I apologize. 3 minutes have ended. If you could wrap up your comments.
Yes, I'm finished, and as long as all of you have that information, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kathy Knight. Kathy Knight.
Yes, I'm here. I'm Kathy Knight. I'm the project manager of the Baiona Ecosystem Education Project, and I've been volunteering for the past 27 years to save this really precious resource here in Los Angeles and on our coast. And I support the comments made by Patricia McPherson. I won't repeat them. I support them very much. And I also want to see a groundwater sustainability project for Baiona. And these aquifers are so important, especially now when we're going through this climate change and this extreme drought conditions. We don't know, all of our water resources are really low that we're depending on in the Los Angeles area. So I think it's really important that we take top priority to protect drinking water aquifers and make sure we have the studies done that show that they are safe from having saltwater intrusion. So essentially, there was a recent court decision regarding SoCal Gas that they do have to remediate it to a drinking water standard. So it has been decided that it is drinking water standard. And basically, I'm really happy that we're going to be able to be doing a presentation in the future, and we hope to get your support, and also just to give you the information needed to see how important these aquifers are, this area is. Thank you so much.
President Williams, I have two additional public comments, but those will be read into the record by our legal counsel. First is from Louis Reyes, and the second is Kathy Wagner.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is from Louis Reyes, Monday, June 28th at 11:36 a.m. Dear board members, I'm a resident of Redondo Beach, and I'm extremely concerned to read that General Manager Patrick Shields was placed on administrative leave without explanation. Should we be concerned about his prior behavior, where he has had multiple sexual harassment settlements with his previous employer, the Irvine Ranch Water District? We remind you the West Basin board members are to represent the people and make strong protectionist decisions for us. And if that means letting go of an employee to protect what has been built over many years, then we expect you to do so. Make decisions for the people. Thank you, Louis Reyes. That's the first one. The second one is from Katie Wagner, sent today, June 28th, 2021 at 12:28 p.m. Best to the board, and as requesting Julie read the following. Thank you to the staff for the meetings. I did not get to finish my comment last week, so I'm seeing again in writing. I also hope you will be ready to translate comments in other languages frequently. It is disappointing that West Basin has repeatedly had special sessions with Department 24-hour notice. This lack of transparency is transparent to us, and we want to discourage public engagement. It is a waste of ratepayer money to continue to pay Mr. Shields' salary at this time, given that he is not worthy of this 21, don't employ sexual predators. We are disappointed with any board member who voted this January to extend Mr. contract. This includes Director Gray, Chair Williams, Peter. Given that you were aware of his prior misconduct years ago, he had already committed atrocious acts and continued to allow him to be in a position of power where he could prey on vulnerable people. We are especially disappointed with Director Gray and Chair Williams, as you were appointed to Metropolitan Water District Board only 2 weeks ago. You voted to abstain from appointing Adele Haji Khalil to General Manager, regardless of concerns of the same nature. Director Gray, we have heard you talk at length about how terrible sexual MWD and how you will not stand for it in Shield Basin. You said that you did not want to vote for Adele Haji Khalil's contract because he is not a woman. But if you choose not to remove Haji Shield, it's hard to believe any of your comments about gender or feminine WD were anywhere. The press is watching, the public is watching. Whether you want to run for work or again, or another position, remember, break over this matter. This is an opportunity to review your personnel decisions, your water decisions, and the Basin. West Basin will take this opportunity to look inward, particularly learn from the experience of the Metro over the last few months. We ask the board members to exercise due diligence to this unfortunate circumstance of speed, including carrying out a decision of next step around unfair ratepayers who are putting the bill for an employee to be on an extended administrative absence. Time to bring this matter to a close. Focus is set on the infrastructure and expansion of the recycling plants and its 21st century solutions. Invest in more conservation, nature-based solutions. We ask West Basin to portray ocean contamination and both its climate and marine impacts. Leave it out entirely as not yet exhausted. Revise demand projections to create a new demand scenario to create recent demand trends in projection, assuming an increase, then stagnation and conservation of efficiency through 2045. Provide a detailed description of efforts to partner with other agencies in preparation for direct potable reuse of local water supplies. We commend West Basin on your cutting-edge street implementation of recycled water and are thrilled to see that West Basin further extend its role as a leader in recycled water. With the greater use of recycled water and using water by almost 20% of its total supply by 2025, West Basin is indeed a pioneer in water planning. Can do more. Remove active shields in solidarity, AREC, MPA, Southern California Water, and Charming Evelyn Chair, Angela Jackson. That concludes
Nothing like the innocent stuff in the building.
President Williams, during the reading, I have 3 additional requests received. Would you like me to read?
Just a minute. Who's the timekeeper?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Who's the timekeeper?
I am.
Okay, are we watching the time?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
So the next speaker is Joey for Downing.
Yes, I'd like to make public comment.
Go ahead.
I want to say that I am deeply disturbed and partially disgusted that we have a board that refuses to get rid of a sexual predator. A lot of people called you. A lot of people told you that to have this person there is a liability, that it's a problem. People who violate and assault other people and commit acts of violence, this act of violence, need treatment. They need therapy. They need help. And most important, if they're not receiving that treatment or therapy, then they become a danger not only to themselves, but to the people in the environment. All of you are enabling a sexual predator to continue to work at an agency and become a liability. and Mr. O'Neill, who should be doing the right thing for everyone by making sure that this agency does not have any problems or liabilities with its members, is staying quiet and empowering this sexual predator. He did the same thing at the Central Basin, and that's why his law firm no longer has a contract in that area, because they were pathetic and incapable of following the law or protecting the agency. You guys are all accountable. We already told you we are not going to give up. We are going to get women groups involved, and we are going to have the community continue to call out anyone who is elected here that is not doing anything other than to enable and empower the sexual predator. There is no room in our agency for a sexual predator. And if you guys keep empowering them, then you are working against the community. So do your job and fire that guy and get someone else, because we will not allow people who are sexual predators to hold positions of power in government. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you, President Williams. The next speaker is Martha Camacho Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you for this afternoon. And I'd like to speak on behalf of the victims and remind people who support and sustain and promote sexual serial predators that that is a real issue in our public agencies. This is not my opinion, it's a fact. We have found across our West Basin, Central Basin, and other water agencies across our jurisdictions and out of our jurisdictions, that this seems to be a real prevalent issue. And that while we do not, as a public elected board, address these issues with the severity of the outcomes that we have continued to see, then we're not doing our due diligence serving the public. And so I want to remind this board that while you give the privilege of the individual home collecting a paycheck, and the victim is out there in what condition we don't know. And so you need to do right by your constituents. You need to do right as a moral and ethical conduct of a board that you are, and make a decision to really address this issue. To continue to handle business behind closed doors, for obvious reasons, we understand why that has to happen. But at the end of the day, to continue to keep things in the dark and continue to re-victimize these victims by not bringing some closure is not a good thing. It is not a good image on a board, and it really speaks volumes from people, specifically women. I want to call out all the women who have been witness to this, have been silent to this, and have allied with the predators and have allied with the silence that has continually harmed our community of victims. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you, President Williams. The last speaker that I have is Downey Helps, and he'll be speaking in Spanish. Downey Helps, go ahead.
Is the person online?
Yes, Downey Helps, are you there?
Say in Spanish.
Is the line operating properly?
The line is, but he muted himself on his end.
Can someone get to him?
Let me send him a message in the chat box.
Downey Helps. What kind of organization is Downey Helps?
When did I hear?
Okay.
Are we gonna order in dinner later?
I need some tech support. Yeah. Well, can we catch him up next time? We must move on.
Downey Helps, are you still there? If you are there, you need to unmute your end of the line. You're muted on your end. We can hear you now. You just muted yourself.
¿Cuántos segundos tengo?
Go ahead.
Tiene 3 minutos, Johnny.
Ok, no, me siento que me tengo que repetir, pero ahí va, última vez. Hagan lo correcto y al jam.
We can't hear you. If you want to start again.
Did he bring an interpreter with him?
Y despidan al manager que está ahí y saquen a O'Neill.
Are we gonna get a translation of this later on?
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes, President Williams, the 3 minutes is nearly up. We'll continue to message the gentleman to see if we can get his public comments either typed in the message box or at a later point in the meeting. But it appears as though he's having some technical difficulties on his end.
Okay, then we will go on and complete, is that the end of public comment?
Yes, that concludes all the comments.
Okay, well, thank you. And we'll move on to.
Mr. President, Director
Yes.
Gray, can you hear me?
Director Gray. Yes.
Mr.
Yes, go ahead.
President,
Yes, go ahead.
President Williams,
Yes. I can hear you. Mr. Caldwell.
Yes, Director Gloria Gray is participating via phone. It looks like she might have muted herself, so we're trying to work on that as well.
Okay, then we will move on.
This is Connor Everett. I emailed my comments in asking to speak, and I haven't heard of the opportunity. I also have to say there are technical difficulties. I don't know if you all are hearing the echoing that we are on the other end, but it's almost impossible to hear the speakers, let alone the board members.
Well, I do hear the echoing. And Mr. Caldwell?
Yes, there is a bit of an echo. Fortunately, we're doing the best we can with as you know, there will be an RFP released for audio and visual, so we hope to fix those. I did actually, I'm looking at my email now. I do see that Mr. Everett did send an email to our administrative manager, and I can read that into the record. It says, to the West Basin Board, Chair Harold Williams, General Manager EJ Caldwell, I want to implore you to let the public know that what is happening with your General Manager, Patrick Shields. We have made public comment before verbally, but see there is no closed session regarding personnel on today's board agenda. We are concerned that the time of the board is being taken away and staff morale and focus is being distracted from the real mission of the agency. As well, public funds are being expended as long as you have Mr. Shields on paid administrative leave. I understand the process for firing a public employee having served on an elected water board, but I also understand that the general manager serves at the will of the board. If you are investigating, like the MWD has been doing, please let ratepayers and the public know. It has been long enough. Yeah. If I wasn't having to write this, then I would be complimenting you on not having ocean desalination in your urban water management plan. Connor Everett.
Thank you. Now we're closing public comment unless there's something that we missed.
I believe all of the public commenters have had the opportunity to speak.
Now, concerning Director Gray's comments,
President Williams, she's still on the line.
Can she wants to speak now. Director Gray?
Technology grant.
President Williams, we're reaching out to her via phone.
Okay, well, we'll bring her on to get in touch with her. For now, let's move on with the item number 5, presentation.
President Williams, we have no presentations this afternoon.
Okay, then that moves us to item number 6. Items too late to be agendized. Do we have any?
No, we do not.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 7, consent calendar.
President Williams, this is Director Alvarez. I would like to request that item number 7D be moved to the action calendar, and maybe we can add it to the action calendar for discussion. Thank you.
And that is item 7B. You would like to have that moved?
7D on consent calendar, so it is poised for action.
Right, we can move it to action calendar for discussion.
Oh, I see, to pull it from consent.
Yes.
Got it, thank you.
So item 7D is full for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Director Don Deere. I want to move the approval of the balance of the consent calendar.
This Director Gray, I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the balance of the calendar of the consent calendar be approved. Oh, and there's a second. A motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, then I'm an aye, so it's no dissent there. So next item. So do we take up item 4.7D now?
Can.
Mr. General Counsel.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I overlooked the fact that we do have 2 virtual directors, so we need a roll call vote on that last item.
Okay. Very good then. We'll have a roll call on, that would be on the consent calendar minus item D. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's items 7A, B, and C.
Okay, so roll call. Director Gray?
Yes.
Director Alvarez?
Yes.
Director Houston?
Yes.
Director Deere?
Yes.
Director Williams? Yes. So the motion carries unanimously. Okay, then that brings us to the 7D. Do we deal with that here, Mr. General Counsel?
Yes, you can entertain, it's poised for action now. If the board wants to take action on 7D, this would be the time.
Okay, Director Alvarez, since you pulled this, would you like to speak to it?
I did. I have some questions. I don't know if staff wants to make a brief presentation or not.
Yeah, thank you, Director Alvarez. We do have our Executive Officer of Finance, Margaret Moja, on the phone or on the line, as well as Doug Brown, a shareholder with Stradling, Yoka, Carlson, and Roth. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And they are here to answer any questions. As you can see, this is for a reauthorization of tax and revenue anticipation note. And this was taken to our Finance and Administrative Committee earlier this month. Margaret, I don't know if you have any initial comments or thoughts on the item.
Certainly, I can add a few comments to it. Good afternoon, directors and the public. My name is Margaret, and I'm sharing with you about the resolution number 0621-1129, and starts on page 68 of the board packet. This item here allows us to extend or reauthorize the tax and revenue anticipation note that is required for us to be able to maintain our commercial paper line. That is a legal requirement, and as such, I have asked our bond counsel to be here too to give you the specifics as it relates to it. Our commercial paper program is a benefit to the district as it relates to our capital program. As we are continuing to build out and support our recycled water facilities, we want to make sure that we have a means in which to be able to afford those long-term assets by matching it with debt as appropriate. First, we would of course look to use our own our own cash and or our designated funds in order to be able to pay for this. But we do have some significant R&R projects coming up over the next year and into the next 5 years. As such, we believe that the commercial paper program is a value add to the district. And at this time, we would like to, like I said, reauthorize the tax and revenue anticipation note to be able to have that commercial paper be available to us as needed. With the recent refunding that we had for the 2021 bonds, we did pay off the commercial paper. So at this time, we do not have any outstanding balance as it relates to the commercial paper program. As one of the requirements for the presenting this to you today, we are also to provide a good faith estimate. That good faith estimate is shown at the top of page 69 of your board packet. It does show that with the total interest cost estimated to be about 1% plus associated fees, and with the anticipated costs for, fully utilizing our commercial paper program, you can see what that good faith estimate is. That estimate was determined by our financial advisor, PFM Advisors. As such, our recommendation as staff is that the board approves resolution number 06211129, a resolution of the Board of the West Basin Municipal Water District authorizing the execution and delivery of a tax and revenue anticipation note to support a commercial paper program. With that, I'll turn it over to the board. And again, if there are any questions as it relates to the legal purpose of that, I do have District Bond Counsel here, Doug Brown, to help me in addressing those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Alvarez.
Okay, I do have a couple of questions. On the commercial paper, if I understand it correctly, we just paid off some of that with the refinancing of the bonds, correct?
That is correct, yes.
How much was that amount that was paid off?
We paid off, we had an outstanding balance of 25 million and we paid off that balance of 25 million.
Okay.
I should say we fixed it out with our 2021 transaction.
So the action we would be taking today is to basically establish a new commercial paper account.
We are required by law to have what is referred to as a tax and revenue anticipation note, or a TRAN, we might say for short, to have that available. It is only allowed to be out there for a 15-month period of time. And again, this particular commercial paper that we have program is set to this current program, I should say. We will be looking to see how to support that going forward. But the current program we have ends in October 2021. We do have an RFP out there right now and do anticipate bringing a new recommendation to the board in August to be able to do so. But able to do so, we do need to have this TRAN available to us so that we are able to effectuate this program.
Okay, so with the new program, for what period of time will that be for?
We've also set it for a 3-year period of time. So again, we're seeking bank liquidity facilities, and we did receive, I believe, 5 responses that we're currently reviewing.
Okay, and that new program is going to afford us the opportunity to borrow money at what rate, and how much is it going to cost us, even if we borrow no money at all?
The cost for just having the program is about 35 basis points. The estimated per this good faith estimate, we've used 1%, but I will let you know that as of our last roll that we had relating to the commercial paper, because we'll do it for a short period of times, was at 6 basis points, so 0.06%. So again, cheaper than, perhaps a longer term debt. So again, we don't want to be going out and getting debt for projects and then have them happen at a later time and be paying for it. We rather have this sort of just-in-time debt available to us so that we're able to, again, as we work with the engineering team and work with those projects that are there, that of course will come before the board as it relates to construction projects that we would then be looking to, so the projects you will hear it, through your E&O committee and through the board. And then as a result of that, we would then be using this commercial paper line to help pay for some of the projects. Again, the projects that are intended to use this particular thing are those that are longer in length. We do have some assets that have a 20-year life that are coming up for its sort of end of useful life that we're looking to move forward within the next few years.
Okay, so to borrow, just to be in a position to borrow the money, we have to pay 35 basis points. So that's 35 basis points of $50 million is about $175,000.
I believe so, yes.
it's going to cost us $175,000 just to have access to borrowing money.
Right. But as reflected within our reflected within our capital program that we showed during the budget workshop, we did show that we have a pretty significant R&R need over the next 5 years. I believe our 5-year capital spend is anticipated to be around 200 million, of which about 70% of it is all R&R related. Now, again, not all R&R costs will go towards the commercial paper. Again, only those that are longer term in length would be ones that we would apply the commercial paper towards. But those are ones that we do fully anticipate moving forward on in the next year or two. Within the next, yes.
Okay. All right, so the commercial paper account can cost us $175,000 and allow us to borrow money over the next 3 years. Again,
right, at a lower cost of borrowing than if we were to go out and get long-term financing, correct?
So, and that is, in the staff report, it says at 1.43%. Will that be at 1.43% over the 3-year period, or is that subject to change over that period of time?
So again, as it shows there, it is our good faith estimate. We have used an assumed rate of 1% per annum. So we're saying if we were to go out and get commercial paper today, we could potentially be paying 1%. But as I shared with you, it's been significantly less than that. So consider that 100%, and we're paying 6%. And so that's what we are assuming there. So we do anticipate, as we draw, having to pay an interest rate. Again, we've made a good faith estimate of what it is because, again, we're looking over a period of time, and where the interest rates are low today, they could certainly change in the next few months to the next, year.
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, we'll be paying a market rate at the time that the funds are called upon.
Correct. So as we draw on those funds, we will then be working with a broker dealer who we use Barclays for. And again, the liquidity facility it currently is with Bank of the West. That is the one that is currently under an RFP, and we'll be bringing a recommendation back in August. So again, that rate may change, but we anticipate that again, when we go out to the market, we would use Barclays. They would find those investors that are looking to buy this short-term paper, and so we hope that we would still see that 6 basis points versus the 1% that you see here on this good faith estimate.
Basically, it's going to be whatever the market rate is at the time that we borrow the money.
Correct. That is correct. And of course, we will be providing you those updates as we do through our monthly F&A, or certainly at our quarterly report when we do our debt and swap.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So at the end of 3 years, when the period of time for that commercial paper expires, let's say we borrow $25 million like we did last time. What do we need to do at that point in time, or how do we anticipate refinancing that money?
Certainly, there's a couple of options. One is, of course, we can go out and look at the market conditions and see if we can go out into the market. So we, we're able to achieve a pretty nice, if you will, rate as it relates to refunding this last time around. So we would hope that that would be the case as well. But if that is not the case, we can look at our cash balances as well. And of course, in either situation, and either pay off that commercial paper with our own funds versus if we wanted to go out in commercial paper. So we will evaluate that and work with the financing team, presumably, of course, our bond counsel, our financial advisor, and look at the various options that are appropriate for us at that time. That is for us to consider.
Thanks. Just so that I understand, you have I think you've covered two options. One option is to refinance it, and it would be going out to the market. So by going out to the market, do you mean that we go out and issue bonds for the $25 million, or we would refinance the bond issuance as we just did, and in refinancing the bond issuance, increase our bonded indebtedness by whatever amount of commercial paper needs to be paid off?
I think I understood your question, and that is correct, yes.
Okay, so if we go to the market, they basically are going to increase our bonded indebtedness. The other alternative that you said is that we would look at our cash balance and possibly pay it off. Is our cash balance today in a position to have paid off $25 million of debt?
Certainly, we would look at our overall designated funds need through, again, what we're trying to accomplish with the capital program, making sure we have funds for operating and capital contingency, as well as just our operating funds. We are required to have a certain amount of operating funds available to be able to pay for, our ongoing operating needs, such as our water bills, our program expenditures, and the like.
So that I understand it, our cash balance today would not be sufficient to pay off the $25 million that we currently have, and that's why we refinanced it and increased our bonded indebtedness and just refinanced our bond.
It's one factor to look at. Could we do it? I think that, depending upon how our decisions are being made in those other areas, yes. But we also want to look at where we are in the interest rate spectrum. And again, the interest rates are at a historic low basis, and so it is in our best interest, perhaps, to be able to do this. Again, one of the credit positives that we have with the rating agencies is looking at a number of factors, including sort of what is our debt coverage ratios are, what our cash balances are, our ability to raise rates in order to be able to afford the programs that we have. So a number of factors are looked at. And so again, this is one in which, while there may be cash available, there also could be an opportunity for us to take a look at using commercial paper and or long-term debt to be able to do so. Because again, what is the long-term vision? It's not just about today or next year. It's really about what is the next 5 or 10 years. And that's why, I think the work that we have as far as our visioning as it relates to what our water sales are versus our capital programs, and what we anticipate our growth in those areas, and our anticipated rate increases, that all play a factor into how some of these decisions are being made.
Okay. So I come back to the fact that we don't have that amount of cash available today, and we probably won't have it in the future. So really, all we're doing is borrowing money to pay for repair and replacement projects that will then be embedded into a long-term bonded indebtedness. And my comment on that is not a very sustainable approach to operating, to continue to debt finance R&R projects. R&R projects, in my opinion, should be paid for out of cash flow, if you will. Pay goes, the popularly used method of referring to that. And I don't understand, or I don't understand, I understand it. Let me rephrase that. I don't think it's a good practice to continue to bond finance or to debt finance R&R projects. So right. I think we really reconsider this item. Those are my questions and my comments. Thank you.
And if I could also respond to you, Director Alvarez, on that, which is that, again, we have, I'll say, sufficient funds today, but if you were to utilize all those funds for the $200 million of projects that are out there, and again, there could be question about some of those projects, but again, $200 million of projects, we do not have $200 million in the bank to pay for those projects.
not to mention that we would want to make sure that we have adequate funds for everything. So I understand your point there, and it's a conversation that I think is a good one to ask as it relates to our sort of long-term vision and planning for the district.
I understand, and I do agree that it's a long-term conversation that the board needs to have. And the reference to $200 million of potential projects is just that, potential projects. To the best of my recollection, the majority of the projects identified as consisting of the $200 million have not been reviewed and approved to move forward. So in anticipation of $200 million that may or may not be needed, I think it is not a good investment of public funds or good stewardship to continue with this approach.
Okay. Mr. Alvarez, are you done?
I am for the time being.
Well, there's an item, a recommendation on the floor, so I will entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Is there a second? Hearing none, I'll second it.
I'll second it. Director Gray, can you hear me?
Okay, well, thank you then. There's been a motion and second on the floor to approve the item. And again, Ms. Moshe, would you read the recommendation again?
Absolutely, be happy to. That the board approves resolution number 0621-1129, resolution of the Board of the West Basin Municipal Water District, authorizing the execution and delivery of a tax and revenue anticipation note to support a commercial paper program.
All right, we'll now call the roll on the vote. Director Gray?
Yes.
Director Alvarez?
No.
Director Houston?
I'm going to vote yes, but I think that we do need to look at this in the future and not keep doing it. So I'll vote yes.
Director Deere?
Yes, and I agree. Director Alvarez makes some good points that we have to be aware of in the future. But I vote yes.
And Director Williams, I vote yes. So the motion carries. Next item. That moves us to.
Yes, President Williams. Oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
That moves us to item number 8 on the action calendar. So would you please go, Mr. Caldwell?
Yeah, thank you, President Williams. The first item on the action calendar is a resolution number 0621-1134 related to the Code of Conduct, and I believe Steve O'Neill will be handling this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item arose out of the last Ethics Committee concerning a few items, a few aspects of the district's Code of Conduct. And one of the items discussed was some language that was added to the Code of Conduct concerning what constitutes misconduct or discourteous conduct. And the other aspect of what came out of the Ethics Committee was the issue of how items are added to the agenda in light of the Code of Conduct. As we discussed at the Ethics Committee, the issue of conduct unbecoming or discourteous conduct is discussed in the staff report, and in our view, and as we reported to the Ethics Committee, it's very much a contextual discussion in that the specific instances of each of these types of conduct must be looked at individually, and it's quite hard to capture it in advance or in the abstract, and thus it's one of these situations where you know it when you see it. Lastly, the issue of about return to the resolution. The issue there was how matters could get placed on the agenda, because our administrative code was very liberal in that any director can put anything on a district agenda, and if the director makes a direct request, the agenda should reflect the name of the director making the request. So that's in addition to what the staff is on the agenda. But we also had another section in the code of conduct that talked about the ethics committee, and it stated that if there are any violations of the ethics committee, those should be reported to the general manager or an ethics committee member. And we had this tension between those two provisions, and at the last ethics committee meeting, we worked through a resolution of those, which are reflected in the resolution itself. And basically, what we've done is amend both sections. So the resolution amends section 2-1.303 of the district's administrative code, and it essentially carves out allegations or situations involving a code of conduct violation. The new amended language would be that with the exception of items dealing with code of conduct violations, which have to be agendized for the next ethics committee meeting, an individual board member may request an item be added to the agenda. So we also made a minor edit to section 2.1306 A1 concerning the ethics committee language as well. But what this resolution does is that it continues the process of allowing an individual director to add something to an agenda, unless it involves a code of conduct violation or a code of conduct issue, in which case it has to be reported to the general manager or an ethics committee member, and then the suspected potential violation would be agendized at the next ethics committee meeting. So with that, it's staff's recommendation as follows, that the board approves resolution number 06-21-1134, a resolution of the Board of Directors of West Basin Municipal Water District amending resolution number 1-16-1024 Administrative Code as it relates to the Code of Conduct and Ethics Committee. That concludes the staff report, and I'm of course happy to have any questions.
I'll move the resolution.
And I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that the resolution as read by the general counsel be approved. Is there any objection?
We need a roll call vote.
I didn't hear that.
We need a roll call vote.
And that we will take the roll call vote now. Director Gray.
Yes.
Director Alvarez.
Yes.
Director Houston.
Yes.
Director Deere.
Yes.
Director Williams. Yes. So the motion carries. So the next item. Item B.
Yes, thank you very much, President Williams. The item before you, item 8B, begins on packet page 100. It is related to the Association of California Water Agencies and their Region 8 call for candidate nomination. As you recall, there is a specific process for nominating representatives for Region 8 in the Aqua Association. As such, a resolution is required by any member agency that wishes to nominate a member of their board. As you all recall, our very own Director Gloria Gray does serve currently as the Vice Chair of Region 8. As part of that process, staff is recommending that the board adopt a resolution of the Board of Directors placing in nomination Director Gloria Gray as Chair of the Association of California Water Agencies Region 8 Board of Directors. And the materials are included in the board packet, and staff, because of the deadline that is looming, staff would be wrapping that up if and when the board takes action today and submitting that to Aqua. And that's all I have, President Williams, unless you have any specific questions.
Any questions from the board?
I just have a quick clarifying question because I think it was brought up at the committee. Was there a time limit on how long a person can serve as vice chair? So that's why Director Gray is running for chair. Can you explain that real briefly, EJ?
Yes, thank you very much, Director Houston. So there is a two-term limit for serving as a vice chair and or the chair of Region 8. And as you might recall, there's a chair, a vice chair, and up to five board members for each specific region within Aqua. So this would remove her from the vice chair to serve as chair. And then, of course, the chair and the vice chair also serve on the greater Aqua Board of Directors.
Let me just ask one other question. I think this is probably more for the public than us, but we're nominating Director Gray to be a representative on Region 8 from West Basin, but the group of Region 8 votes on this. Is that right? How does this process work once we get this nomination to them?
So the nomination actually goes to a nomination committee that will filter through those applications, and then they put forth a recommended slate. And so then, of course, the board votes on that slate.
Okay. The Region 8 board.
The full Aqua board.
The full Aqua board. Okay.
Is the president chairperson being turned out also?
The current chair, I believe, is termed out, but he's also decided that he's not going to run to serve on the board.
I'll make the motion that we approve this recommendation.
Is there a second?
This is Houston, I think.
We'll have to have a roll call on this.
Yes.
Okay, Director Gray?
Yes.
Director Alvarez?
Yes.
Director Houston?
Yes.
Director Williams, Director Gear?
Yes.
And Director Williams, yes. So it's
President Williams, may I add some comments, please?
yes, you may.
Yeah. Thank you, board, for the vote of confidence. The only reason I'm considering the chair is that the current chair is no longer interested. I don't know if he terms out or not, but I've spoken to Steve Blois, and he will not be running for chair. And in order for West Basin to have a seat on the executive committee, I believe it has to be the chairs, I believe that, or vice chairs. And I'm termed out of the vice chair, so that's the only reason I'm seeking this, to ensure that West Basin continues to have a seat on the executive committee. And EJ, am I correct in what I've said?
That is correct, Director Gray.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, that takes us to the next item.
Yes, thank you very much, President Williams. The next item is item 8C, and it's related to West Basin's 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, the 2021 Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and Appendix 1 Addendum to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. And I'm very pleased to recognize some of our guests here today that will be providing the board with this presentation. We do have Rob Morrow, the project manager, senior water resources engineer from WSC. We also have Heather Freed, project engineer from WSC. We also have Lizzie Wiley, an engineer in training from WSC. And we have Lisa Medell, a senior water resources engineer from Medell Water Management. And lastly, but not least, we do have Matt Bay from West Basin staff who will be providing this presentation. So Matt, I believe you'll be starting this off.
Yes, thank you, EJ. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. President Williams and board members, before you today are three important documents that will help guide West Basin's water supply planning and shortage response efforts over the next 25 years. And where we are today is really the culmination of more than 6 months of research, analysis, coordination, public outreach, and stakeholder discussion. While we only received a few public comments on our draft documents, we do appreciate the feedback that was provided to us, both in written form and verbally. This 2020 Urban Water Management Plan portrays our best projections as to what the next 25 years of water resources in our service area will look like. Our team carefully and thoroughly considered a wide variety of factors and assumptions while developing our projections, and each of these factors will ultimately have an impact on how closely those projections match reality in future years. Fortunately for West Basin, as EJ mentioned, we have a highly capable and knowledgeable team of water professionals assisting our efforts. I also wanted to thank our internal West Basin team, including the PI team led by Amy Rocha and the Water Policy and Resources Development team led by EJ. Both teams made valuable contributions to the development of these documents. Before I start going through the presentation, I would like to note that the 2020 UWMP is not the conclusion of our work, but merely serves as a snapshot in time of where we are and where we expect and hope to be in the next 25 years. Accordingly, we will be beginning a second phase following the adoption of these documents, where we plan to do an even deeper dive into the supplies and demands of our service area. This will include working closely with our retail agencies, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, and other partners and stakeholders to truly understand the ongoing water needs of our service area, planned capital projects, and other information that will be vital to our efforts going forward. With that said, our team will now begin going through the presentation slides. I'll go through the first 8 slides, and then I'll turn it over to our water experts. So here you'll see the staff recommendation for what we'll be asking you to consider today. This would be to approve and adopt the 3 following resolutions: our 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, our 2021 Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and our Appendix I addendum to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. This is the timeline of kind of where we are today. As I mentioned, it's been more than 6 months of work to get us to this point. In April, we did issue a 60-day notice of public hearing. That's a statutory requirement they have to do public outreach to let people know that a public hearing will be taking place on the Urban Water Management Plan. On May 25th, we published the public review draft of our 2020 UWMP to our website, and that kicked off a 15-day public comment period. During that public comment period, we did receive 1 written comment. On June 10th, we hosted our public hearing. During that hearing, we went through each of the 3 different documents in greater detail. And at that meeting, we also received 3 verbal comments from the public. Today, we will be asking you to adopt the 3 following plans or documents. And then if that happens, we will have the next few days to submit our final versions to the Department of Water Resources by the July 1st deadline. Following the deadline, we then will have another 30 days to provide those documents to our retail agencies, as well as all of the cities within our service area. So now we'll start with the Urban Water Management Plan. These are the same slides that EJ provided at the public hearing, so we just wanted to provide these as a summary, refresher, and recap of the Urban Water Management Plan. So the Urban Water Management Plan is required by the California Water Code. It's a statutory requirement. It must be updated every 5 years and submitted to the California Department of Water Resources. It promotes coordination with our local and regional stakeholders. For West Basin, this came in the form of us working with our retail agencies and with Metropolitan Water District. We held numerous meetings throughout the process to learn about their information and to share our information with these other agencies. It supports long-term water supply and drought planning, provides a framework for water efficiency and drought response, and this year it also provides a framework for shortage response, which will be part of the water shortage contingency plan. It is also a prerequisite for certain state loans and grants from both the Department of Water Resources and the State Water Resources Control Board. There's a number of new requirements this year. The first is a requirement to provide a layperson's description of reliability. So throughout the document, we made our best effort to try to write it in a way that could be understandable by the average person. It also requires a long-term forecast for each water supply source in our service area, including looking at climate change and other supporting information. Most importantly, this relates to our imported water supplies, as that is the supply source that is most at risk of climate change and other factors. We are also required to develop a 5-year drought risk assessment. Essentially what this is if the next 5 years, 2021 through 2025, were all extremely dry years, what would that look like in terms of our water supplies and reliability? And then finally, we were required to develop a water shortage contingency plan. This is a standalone document that provides us with prescriptive elements on how we would address shortages in our service area in the future. This slide shows you the key information that's included in this year's UWMP. There's a description of West Basin and its service area, including demographics and population, etc. There's an evaluation of West Basin's retail and replenishment demands. So retail demand is the imported water and recycled water that we provide for irrigation, refineries. And then the replenishment demand is the recycled water and imported water that we provide to the seawater barriers for seawater intrusion protection and for groundwater replenishment. It includes an assessment of our current and projected water supplies, an evaluation of the reliability of those water supplies, and there's also a comparison of demand and supply projections for the next 25 years. As I mentioned, there's a water shortage contingency plan, and then also a description of our demand management measures that has been implemented by West Basin and that will continue to be implemented by West Basin in future years. This includes not only our water use efficiency and conservation program, but our public information and education program, both of which work closely together to drive down demand of drinking water. And then finally, here are some of the challenges that we had to deal with in developing this year's UWMP. As I mentioned already, the new requirements for water shortage contingency plan and Delta reliance. Rob and Lisa will talk to those a little bit more in their slides. Also, the final Department of Water Resources guidance for UWMPs was issued pretty late this year at the end of March. Thankfully, our team was kind of prepared for that. We didn't know whether or not some of the requirements for retailers were going to be required for wholesalers. And so we were ready for that, and we were able to get it to the point today where we're ready to adopt all of the resolutions by the statutory deadline. The submittal deadline is also the same on July 1st for both wholesalers and retailers. So this did create kind of a back and forth environment where we were hoping to get some information from our retailers at the same time that they were looking to us to provide information for them. However, as I mentioned, we did do a good job of meeting with each and every one of our retailers and with Metropolitan Water District. And so we really feel good about where the plan stands, but we will continue to work with our retailers post-adoption to continue to develop those models of supply and demand. And then finally, as you can see from the figure here, a whole host of plans and studies were integrated into the 2020 UWMP. Most notably, I would like to call out the Recycled Water Master Plan, which is still in progress, but we pulled heavily from that, especially as relates to our future recycled water supplies. So with that said, I will now turn it over to the water experts, Rob and Lisa. But before I do so, are there any questions for me?
Are there any questions from the board members? Hearing none, Rob, go ahead.
Hello all, I'm Rob Morrow with WSC. And as Matt mentioned, we've compiled a few slides that consolidate the information we presented at the public hearing a few weeks ago. So we won't go deep into the details, but please ask any questions as we go if we can help. So the main findings from the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan are three presented here. One, West Basin has reliable supplies. It's and normal single dry year, multiple dry year scenarios based on the assumptions included. And we're going to go over those in just a minute. And the key of that is you've invested in recycled water, conservation, your local retailers have groundwater. All of these are highly reliable supplies. And in parallel, Metropolitan has made substantial investments to improve the reliability of imported water supplies. And those two combined are showing a projected over the next 25 years of highly reliable supplies, which is actually evident today in how the Met service area is handling this drought right now. Part of that, and the number 2 item, is we've got solid increases in recycled water use for non-potable reuse and for replenishment. And again, I'll get into some of the numbers in a sec, but this is based on the Recycled Water Master Plan, which West Basin's been working on for over a year now and will be out very soon. And substantial increases in uses of both of those, which helps to actually reduce projected imported water use over time. And lastly, touching on the last point that Matt mentioned, staff will be tracking how retailer demands are trending as well as groundwater use. Those are the 2 biggest variables that West Basin doesn't control, but has the biggest impact on sales and the need for water supplies. And as Matt mentioned, we coordinated as much as possible, and we plan to get into even deeper on demand projections in the next few months. So this chart shows the projected change in West Basin's supply portfolio over time. And the biggest change you see here is in recycled water use. From today, 2020, representing about 14% of overall use, to nearly doubling in 2045. And again, the West Basin's Recycled Water Master Plan details out where those potential uses are and the timing of those. Next slide, please. So some key assumptions, and we try to be as clear as we could in the Urban Water Management Plan because we're using the best information we have today. But in 5 years and in the interim, staff will be looking at these assumptions to make sure we're on track. So number 1, demand. We're projecting an increase of about 4,600 acre feet of demand from the 2016 to 2018 average. And that is purely from high population economic growth, which is built into Metropolitan's regional demand projection, which is directly related to the state's Regional Housing Needs Assessment, RHNA or RENA, that you hear a lot about, or at least we do in the water demand projection world. And so we don't know if all those housing and that population growth will occur, but that is what the regional SCAG, Southern California Associated of Governments, those are the official projections being used today. Also, I should note that we are showing the 2020 demand in the Urban Water Management Plan because that's what's required, but COVID threw off 2020 numbers a bit, and the 2021 numbers are coming in similar to the 2016 to 2018 average, which is what we had expected. Next, on recycled water, I mentioned substantial increases in non-potable use and replenishment, and those are reflected in the numbers shown here. On the third item, groundwater, if you look at historical groundwater use, it's dropped substantially by about 50% in the last 5 years. And there's lots of reasons for that. Some contamination, some infrastructure issues, some need for investment. But all the retailers we talked to said they plan to increase their groundwater use. And so we picked a moderate increase of what we heard. And again, this is something to be tracked by West Basin going forward, since increased groundwater use has a direct impact on sales from West Basin. And lastly, imported water. Metropolitan's projecting highly reliable supplies going forward, and you know, it was highlighted in the LA Times article last week on Diamond Valley Reservoir, and it's showing even single dry year, multiple dry year as highly reliable supplies. And you put that all together, and West Basin as a whole has highly reliable supplies. Next slide. Okay, Delta. So that was Urban Water Management Plan summary. One item that is new to the Urban Water Management Plan this year is reporting on the consistency with the Delta Plan for participants in covered actions. And Metropolitan, as the imported water agency, is primarily responsible for compliance with this, because they're the ones that are going to be obtaining new sources tied to the Delta. But with the Delta Plan from the the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta Reform Act of 2009 requires actions that impact supplies on the Delta demonstrate that local uses of supplies they're making investments that would avoid investing in these Delta supplies. And so what you're showing is through your water use efficiency investments, through groundwater from your retailers, through your recycled water investments, that you've got a high percentage of local supplies to begin with, and it's projected to increase substantially over the next 25 years. And Metropolitan as a whole is complying with the reduced reliance on water supplies from the Delta, projecting that supplies would decrease from 27% to 22%. And so I want to note this because you're being asked to approve an addendum to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. And that's because the guidance to comply with this requirement came out in the past year, but the requirement started in 2014. So, so the Delta Committee and Metropolitan on down has requested folks amend their 2015 plan with the exact same information that's included in the 2020 plan, demonstrating reduced reliance. And so that's why you have a separate item for that today. Okay, so next slide, I'll hand it to Lisa Madaus from Madaus Water Management.
Thanks, Rob. Well, good afternoon. And next slide. I'm just going to touch briefly on the water shortage contingency plan. So as you're aware, we had a drought. There was some legislation that passed in the intervening years. In 2015, there's new requirements for water shortage contingency plans, including that a wholesaler has it formally adopted in a separate document. In 2015 and years prior, it was attached to your urban water management plan. It will be also attached to this urban water management plan as appendix, but you also have a third document to adopt by resolution today. Separately, we have aligned your water shortage contingency plan with Metropolitans. They publish their own wholesaler water shortage contingency plan. So you're seeing circles there on the left. It's basically your urban water management plan is overarching, talking about water supply reliability, and then your water shortage contingency plan is basically an operating manual, how you respond to the drought and how you trigger it. You are required to annually notify now the state if you do trigger your water shortage contingency plan by July 1st. That will start in 2022. Metropolitan's strategy is outlined in their water surplus and drought management plan. That's the third circle there on the left. And ultimately, they have a water supply allocation plan that then feeds into West Basin's water shortage contingency plan. So that's just, we're showing the alignment with the arrows there on how you would then your own drought response. Primarily through a lot of communication and outreach. You have a very strong water efficiency program that gets amped up in terms of drought to help your retailers. And then the retailers each have their own water shortage contingency plan that's also linked to their own urban water management plan. So they're going through the same process to separately adopt an urban water management plan or water shortage contingency plan, elements of which, you know, will link back to West Basin's plan. So that's kind of all the
I think you froze on us. Can you hear us? No.
I think
I can't hear
I think she was wrapping up, so I think we can move on. So thank you, Lisa, and we'll see if she unfreezes here in a sec. But the next topic and the last topic we want to touch up. Oh, sorry. Okay. Is the public comments we received at the public hearing. And if you go to the next slide, please. West Basin received a letter from Los Angeles Waterkeeper, as well as several of the others. Excuse me, several of the other groups listed here. And what we wanted to do was address some of the comments just very briefly. I think in general, the comment letter was supportive of the urban water management plan, but had some critiques, and we just wanted to address those briefly before we wrap up. So next slide, please. So there was 4 main points that were included, and we've got it listed as A, B, C, D. So and the italicized text is taken directly from their letter. And so the first one, that ocean desalination is mentioned throughout the urban water management plan, but the urban water management plan fails to describe its climate and marine impacts. And LAW requests that climate change and marine impacts be fully identified and described in the urban water management plan. And so really the EIR is the best and most appropriate location for an analysis of impacts of desalination. And an urban water management plan is more of a long-term planning document and less of a decision document, an analysis document. So that's why it's not included in the urban water management plan. However, West Basin's desalination program is based on responsible science-based approach that aims to protect marine life and maximize energy efficiency and minimize cost. And we went over in detail the content of that program in the public hearing. Okay, so the second comment was that the urban water management plan claims 100% reliability for all future water year types, therefore negating the need for ocean desalination. And within that comment, LAW recommends that West Basin portray its demands accurately in all future supply and demand figures to show 100% supply reliability even without ocean desalination, as stated in the urban water management plan. And so just wanted to clarify that the official projections in the urban water management plan do not include desalination. However, maybe we'll go to the next slide. Desalination is a potential supply in the future depending on how the future presents itself. So the second part of the comment was, given the supply reliability, LAW recommends that West Basin not proceed with ocean desalination, but instead focus on its efforts on local climate-friendly water supplies, only seeking to evaluate ocean desalination as a possibility once all other avenues have been explored and exhausted. And what we're showing here is, as an example, which is the approach we took in the urban water management plan, is Metropolitan's integrated resources plan, which is currently under development. And Metropolitan has official projections that are being used in its urban water management plans, but they're also considering 4 scenarios that are, extreme probably isn't the correct word, but with strong assumptions as far as demands and imported water reliability. And they are potential future conditions. And so the intent of this is to understand what the future may present and be able to address and provide reliable and cost-effective supplies if that future does present itself. So for example, in the urban water management plan, if recycled water isn't developed as quickly as projected, there's going to be higher demands in imported water. If demands are higher than projected, there's going to be higher demands on imported water. On the other hand, if demands are lower than projected, then there'll be even less. So this is the adaptive planning that is the basis for most water supply planning these days. acknowledging we don't know where the future is, but a smart water district needs to plan for all potential conditions, and that is what West Basin is doing right now. Next slide, please. Okay, so the third main comment was the urban water management plan inaccurately depicts water use trends and thereby creates faulty demand projections. And so this goes back to, as I mentioned, there's been substantial decreases in, you can see in the blue line here, of retailer demand over the last 20 plus years is what we're showing here, including during the most recent drought, which restrictions started about 2014 and ended in about 2016, and that's where demand started to level off. And then we had a drop in 2019 and 2020. 2019 was wet, and 2020 there was a lot of stuff going on, including COVID. And so that's where we use the 2016 to 2018 average as a most likely, quote unquote, normal demand for the West Basin service area. And again, that's roughly what we're seeing with the initial numbers we're seeing for 2021. And then, as I mentioned before, we have an increased demand projection from new housing and new population and economic growth. And our assumption is actually lower than Metropolitan's official projection. Metropolitan was using a higher baseline and included some pre-drought years as part of that baseline demand, and assumed the quote-unquote normal demand is actually higher than where we're at now. So West Basin feels like we're taking a moderate approach, and that once you include the housing demands basically are flat as there's some growth, but it's offset by additional conservation, and West Basin has solid plans to deal with the new demands. Next one, please. Okay, the last one, item D, the Urban Water Management Plan fails to describe current efforts for partnering with other agencies for efforts around local water supply. And LEW recommends that West Basin include current updates and information about its efforts to partner with surrounding agencies for not only DPR or direct potable reuse, but for all other wide-scale efforts for more local supply and greater conservation. And West Basin is showing strong increases in non-potable reuse and replenishment. The non-potable is in orange and the replenishment's in green in the chart. But everything West Basin does is a partnership. The secondary wastewater comes from the city of LA, Hyperion. Its customers are its retailers, and even folks outside of its service area like LADWP. And the regional direct potable reuse type projects require partnerships. West Basin cannot do it on its own. And several of these are being developed and nothing is firm, but West Basin's coordinating with them. And again, the Recycled Water Master Plan touches on the potential uses to get to those higher replenishment goals. And I should also mention Water Replenishment District Southern California, which is managing the groundwater basin. So that's it for the comments. Matt, do you want to take it back?
Yes, thank you, Rob and Lisa. Before we give our final staff recommendation, are there any questions for Robert, Lisa, or myself?
That's to the directors. Any directors out there?
We're out here.
Question? Hearing none, please go on.
Okay. Then our staff recommendation is to approve, adopt, and authorize the following West Basin resolutions for the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, 2021 Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and Appendix I, addendum to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. Do we need to do a formal reading of these, or?
No, you don't need to read the entire resolution.
Okay.
You need a motion? I'll move that we adopt item 8C, 1, 2, and 3.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, Director Gray.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolutions. And so mention those again, please.
Yes, the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, the 2021 Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and the Appendix I addendum to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan.
I will call the roll. Director Gray?
Yes.
Director Alvarez?
Yes.
Director Houston?
Yes.
Director Deere?
Yes.
Director Williams? Yes. We're all approved. That takes us to the next item. Item number 9, information calendar. Mr. Calderon, excuse me. Mr.
Yes, thank you very much, President. This item is on our information calendar. It's item 9A. It's related to the location of West Basin board meetings. Director Alvarez did request this item to be placed on the agenda. It is listed as an information item, however, and I believe our legal counsel can confirm, if the board so chooses, this information item could be moved to the action calendar. Further, I believe our legal counsel, because if the location of this meeting or our standing meetings were to be moved, we would need to update our admin code. And as such, I believe legal counsel has reviewed our admin code and would opine as to a resolution to change that admin code if the board so chooses. So I'll throw it over to Director Alvarez.
Thank you, EJ. President Williams, if it's okay with you, I'll just give a couple of comments on this.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
My reason for bringing this item up is my understanding is that if we're going to have meetings outside of the John Deere building, that we have to go through a special agenda and notification. And it seems like it would be convenient to have the discretion built in to have the meetings either at the John Deere building, the Little plant, or anywhere else in the district boundaries that we choose to have a meeting. So, for example, if we wanted to have a meeting at the city of Malibu and use their city council chambers, or the city of Inglewood, or the city of Carson, etc., or anywhere else, that we should have the convenience of that. And so I don't know if our legal counsel wants to add to that, but I believe that with a resolution, we can amend the administrative code and just give us that flexibility as opposed to having to go through a formal, more process involved to schedule meetings outside of the John Deere building.
Yeah, thank you, Director Alvarez. You're spot on. The legal underpinnings to this are several. One of them is the Municipal Water District Act, which of course are our governing statutes. And that at Water Code 71303, it states that the board may fix the location of the principal place of business of the district and the location of all the offices. And the board in 71302, the board may fix the time and place or places at which its regular meetings will be held, and shall provide for the calling and holding of a special meeting. So the statutes give you the flexibility, and of course we can't ignore the Brown Act. And the Brown Act requires that if it's going to be a regular meeting of the board or any meeting of the board, with a few exceptions, it has to be within the district's jurisdiction. So what we have now is the administrative code, which identifies at section 2-1.402 that the board shall hold regular meetings on the fourth Monday of each month at the district's headquarters at 17140 South Avalon Boulevard. So right now, the board has taken action to have its regular meetings at one specific location, and at this headquarters building. And if it's the board's pleasure, we could prepare a resolution for board consideration to give the flexibility that Director Alvarez is addressing. And my recommendation would be that the resolution would say that the board regular meetings will be held at this facility, at the EC Little facility, which I think is a likely location, or any other properly noticed location within the district's jurisdiction. That would be both elements of the Brown Act in terms of notice and location.
Well, I would like to make a comment. I don't think it's necessary. We can have those special locations, and we've done it in the past. And I don't think we need to get into this jumping around in different places. It's bad enough that these committee meetings have changed so often with this current board. It's hard to keep track. And I think the public, it serves the public better to know a regular place where this board meets, and that's my opinion.
Okay, any other comments?
Mr. Director Gray, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the need for this. I'm sorry, Director Alvarez. What's the need for this again? Because we have had, retreats in different places. So what's the need for this again?
Right now, in order to have the regular board meetings are scheduled on the fourth Monday of the month, and are to be held at the Don Deere building where we are today. If we wanted to have the meetings anywhere else, then we had to make it a special board meeting. If we change the administrative code consistent with the Brown Act and consistent with the Water Code, we could have those meetings anywhere in the district boundaries or at the NC Little facility, and it would just be by a matter of posting, and it would not have to be a special meeting. That's the difference. It just gives you the additional flexibility. So, for example, today we had talked about at the board retreat having this meeting at the NC Little building, and it turned out that we had forgotten that it had to be a special notice meeting, and therefore we could not hold it at the NC Little building. At least so I was told. And so that begs the question, why not have that flexibility?
So then my question to Steve, we've had meetings at the Donald Deere building. So is the issue that the notice has to be noticed as special? Is that the issue? Because we've had that option before. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes, if we're going to notice a meeting outside of this specific location, it will have to be called a special meeting, because our administrative code says that we shall hold regular meetings at this specific location. Thus, any other meeting of the board that takes place outside of this specific location would be deemed a special meeting. What Director Alvarez is sorry.
No, so I guess my point is, so we have the ability to do it with the fact that we just have to notice it as a special board meeting rather than just a regular board meeting, because it would be held in a different location. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So Director Alvarez, doesn't that satisfy the need to, if we needed to have it any other place?
Technically,
go on.
Technically, we're having a regular board meeting. Why do we have to call it a special board meeting? Just in order to move the location. It's a regular board meeting. Today's board meeting could have been held in the city of Malibu, could have been held in the city of Inglewood, could have been held anywhere else. So if we want the flexibility of moving the regular board meetings around without having to call for a special board meeting, it requires a modification to our administrative code, but it would be still consistent with the Brown Act and the Water Code.
And
I understand that. I just so your issue is the special board meeting, the title of it. Now so you're not proposing for us to move the board meetings around. You're just proposing that we just change the administrative code so we have that option, but that's not a proposal just to move our board meetings around, correct?
That is correct. I just think that from time to time, we may want to have regular board meetings at other places. And we did talk about that at our retreat. And so that came to pass today, and when that question came up, that's why I asked that this be added. Thank you.
Right. I just want to make sure that's not the intent, is to move our board meetings from our location, just having that option, correct? Okay. All right. Thank you.
It just makes it easier, and I think we play fast and loose with our meetings anyway, as it is, and it's, I don't think it's a good trend at all.
The last legal item that I would add is that special meetings are a little different in that there's different notice provisions for special meetings. And when you have a special meeting, you can't, if something came up, you cannot add something to that agenda. Special meetings are limited to only what's posted. With a regular meeting, as you know, and as we've done a few times in the past, some things arise subsequent to posting the agenda and they get added. You cannot do that with a special meeting.
This is Director Houston.
Go ahead.
It seems to me really this is just an adjustment to the language of our own admin code. It's, the water code allows it. I don't think anyone's looking at moving meetings around frequently. So I don't see an issue with changing the language, just putting it in there. And then obviously if we so chose, we could on occasion, if we needed to, have the monthly board meeting at, for example, Ed C. Little, instead of over here, which the attorney did bring up that issue too, that the posting of a special board is different than the posting of a board meeting. So to me, I don't see an issue with it. I think it's just pure flexibility. And I think that, I don't know how we move forward with it at this exact moment, but I would be more than willing to entertain having our attorney look at tweaking the language in our code, and then the board could make a decision.
Okay. So here we are. So what is the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion. Please do.
This is an information item. If the board wishes to give me instruction by consensus, I can move forward. So if that's the intent of the board, I can go ahead and prepare a resolution for consideration at either the next board meeting or the next finance and admin committee.
Well, if you want to move on consensus, then bringing it to the admin and finance committee meeting would be appropriate.
I believe that would be the appropriate committee, EJ.
That's correct. We could bring it back to finance and administration.
Because I thought,
Well, in all fairness, I'll support sending it to the administrative committee, though I'm opposed to the action and will oppose it then too, probably. But in fairness, I will support it to make a consensus vote to send it to the finance.
okay. Yeah. Then this will move to the admin and administration and finance committee with the direction to develop. What would be the language there, Steve? To do.
Since we're going to be potentially amending the administrative code, it would be you're instructing council to prepare a resolution to allow the regular meetings to be held at different locations within the district service area.
Okay. So that would be Is that clear?
It is.
Thank you.
And staff will work with Steve O'Neill to bring that back on July 21st at the Finance and Admin Committee.
All right, thank you. Next item. Item number 10, receive and file.
That is correct.
Hello?
This is Director Houston.
Yes.
Just on this one, item 1010, the consideration of district memberships and sponsorships for fiscal year. That was left unanswered, I think, our last committee meeting, so it's here as an receive and file. I don't know if the board wants to go through the process of going through all this today. I guess we might have to punt it again down the road, but I'm willing to go through it today, or we'll do it later, but I think we need to figure out a decision. But I would hold that if the board would like to talk about it now. Otherwise, let's put it on the calendar to talk about it another time.
Director Houston, there is some urgency to that item.
Okay.
The reason we brought it back to our F&A committee just last month, because as the year progresses, we are starting to get invoices for our membership. As you know, the conference schedule is kind of shaping up. We have been receiving some requests for potential sponsorships for these things. So as we continue into the fiscal year or kick off the fiscal year, staff is receiving those invoices and will ultimately need to pay them. They are included in the 2021 fiscal year budget. So there are funds available for all of the memberships and all of the packets. So if the board chooses to eliminate some of those memberships or sponsorships, it would help staff if we weren't that sooner prior to receiving the invoice.
Director Gray.
Yes, Director Gray.
Yeah, I would prefer to deal with it at the next meeting or committee meeting or whatever. I know we have to deal with it. And I know I'm not able to stay on the phone for longer. I think that's going to take some time to go through that. So I'm recommending that we consider it at another meeting.
Anyone else? Anyone ready? Let me ask you this. Is anyone ready to deal with this today?
I'm only ready if I have to. So I think we probably, yeah.
So
but I have to say it, and maybe Mr. Caldwell said it best. We've got to deal with this. We've put it off for 2 or 3 months. So if someone can suggest how we do it in a timely manner to alleviate staff's concerns, but we got to deal with this at some point.
Sometime. All right. So why don't we deal with this at the next admin and finance committee meeting and really bite the bullet and deal with this. All right?
Okay, I'll move approval of the balance of the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Oh, receive and file calendar.
Okay, that was that item 1010 was removed by Director Houston. Okay?
I'm confused.
Okay.
Did you say removed? I couldn't.
Yeah, it was
no longer
removed.
Perfect. You said removed, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. So then items, the rest of the items down to item 13 are up for to receive and file.
Mr. Chair, on item 10, we had a motion to receive and file. I'm not sure if we had a second or a vote on that.
Right. Okay. Is there a second to receive and file balance?
Yeah, this is Houston. I'll second it.
Okay. It's been seconded. Okay. Roll call, please. Director Gray.
Yes.
Director Alvarez.
Yes.
Director Houston.
Yes.
Director Deere.
Yes.
And Director Williams, yes. So item carries. So we're on to item number 11, General Manager's Activity Report. Activities report.
Yes, thank you very much.
Go ahead.
I did attend the Cal Desal Executive Committee meeting on June 14th. As I just mentioned, related to the sponsorships and memberships, it is important to note that a lot of those events that we typically attend are now really starting to get scheduled. So I do want to commend our admin team. They're tracking all of the conferences that are quickly being posted. And I just wanted you to know that CalDCL will be meeting at the fall aqua meeting as they typically would for their regional mixer. So that will be an in-person meeting. Water resiliency workshop meeting. You know, prior to the pandemic, staff held quarterly meetings with our customer agencies and city staff contacts to update them on water use efficiency, public information, and education opportunities. And I wanted to highlight that because we are bringing that meeting back. We will have our first quarterly meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, June 29th at 10 a.m. And we're excited to see some of our retail customers and our municipalities join us for that meeting. Sodium hypochlorite shortage. I just wanted you to note that there is a regional shortage of chlorine due to limited production plants currently online nationwide. And I wanted to give our friends at Suez a great deal of credit because although all vendors of this product are having similar issues and not taking new customer orders, Suez has managed to secure a few extra loads of chlorine from other vendors. And in response, West Basin's beer production has actually been slightly impacted, but it's really important to note that our operations team has done an excellent job, and there is no reduction in the amount of chlorine we're dosing our recycled water with. So our operations seem to be slightly impacted, but not too bad. The ad hoc committee meetings, I know a lot of you have been participating in those. I wanted to highlight that our brewer to salter ad hoc committee, we did meet both on Monday, June 7th, as well as Thursday, June 17th. That meeting was a joint meeting with the Water Replenishment District. We also met again on Monday, June 21st, and so things are progressing very quickly. The next meeting of the Brewer to Salter Ad Hoc Committee will be July 8th, and that will be with the Water Replenishment District as well. The City of Los Angeles Ad Hoc Committee staff and the members of the Ad Hoc Committee did meet this morning prior to this board meeting, and so things are moving very quickly there, and staff will work to coordinate a new upcoming meeting with the City of LA staff. And lastly, the DCEL Ad Hoc Committee. There was a meeting on Thursday, June 24th, and staff is working now to schedule an upcoming meeting. Our upcoming board and committee meetings, our MWD caucus meeting will be on July 7th at our normal time of 12:30. Our Public Information and Education Committee will be meeting Thursday, July 8th at 11 a.m. Our Engineering and Operations Committee will be held on Thursday, July 15th at 4 p.m. Our Water Policy and Legislation Committee will be held on Tuesday, July 20th at 1 p.m. Our F&A Committee will be held on Wednesday, July 21st at 11:30 a.m. And our regular scheduled board meeting will be on Monday, July 26th at 1 p.m. Lastly, I wanted to highlight just a couple of upcoming events. Metropolitan Water District will be hosting a tribute to Jeff Keitlinger this week on Wednesday, June 30th at 4:30 p.m. That will be a virtual event. If you need information related to the link, you can feel free to contact me or our Manager of Administration, Julie Fraser-Matthews. The Municipal Water District of Orange County 2021 Policy Dinner Forum and Dinner will be held on Wednesday, July 14th at 5:30 p.m. That will be hosted at the Westin South Coast Plaza there in Costa Mesa. Please, if any of the members of the Board of Directors would like to attend, please let us know by RSVPing to our Manager of Administration, and we'll make sure that we have our tickets available. And then last but not least, Michael's Boarding Place, they're hosting the 19th annual luncheon and auction of the community outreach sponsorship by West Basin Municipal Water District, and it will be held on Saturday, July 31st at 11:30 a.m. at the West Strip Manhattan Beach, or West Strip in Manhattan Beach. And there is one upcoming conference that we wanted to note. AWWA is hosting their 2021 Membrane Technology Conference, and that will be held in West Palm Beach, Florida on July 19th through the 22nd of this year. And registration is now open, so if you plan to attend,
board members or for technical people?
I think that anybody will probably find some value in there. I think that depending on your knowledge of the technology side, might be a little bit more interesting. And I do have
That's a nice way to say it.
I do have one update too on our 2021A refunding revenue bond. As was reported at the June 23rd Finance Admin Committee meeting, West Basin successfully closed on its 2021A refunding revenue bond on June 22nd. The bonds were priced on June 9th, and the district was able to achieve an overall total interest cost rate of 1.55%. The refunding of the 2011A add 2011B bonds resulted in a present value savings of $19 million, or nearly 25%. The transaction was completed with the support of District Council, Stradling as bond counsel, PFM as municipal advisor, U.S. Bank as trustee, and their underwriting team of senior manager J.P. Morgan and co-managers Barclays and Seifert Williams and Shank. So with that, President Williams, that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Okay. Questions?
President Williams, Director
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
I would like to request if EJ could send the board a copy of his report. He went through some dates that I'm interested in terms of conferences. I know we get director's calendar, but I would like to get a copy of his report. And I have a couple of questions too in terms of he mentioned MODOK dinner. Could you just let me know again when that is? I kind of didn't hear that date.
Yes, that'll be on Wednesday, July 14th at 5:30 p.m.
Right, and just requesting a copy of your report, if you would.
We will send that out after this meeting.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, let's go to the next item. Would be the general counsel's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our summary of services should be in your inboxes sent this morning. Also, we do have a closed session as described on items 14A, 14B, and 14C in today's closed session. That concludes my general counsel report.
Okay. Now we go to the AB 1234 reporting and compliance. Directors.
Yeah, this is Director Houston real quick. AB 1234, the only one I have to report was on June 8th. I attended the Metropolitan Water District Board meeting by teleconference, and so that's on my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Director Alvarez.
Report.
Oh, sorry. Director Gray.
Yeah, I will submit my report through the AB 1234 form. Thank you.
Okay, Director Alvarez.
I have no 1254 activity report.
Okay, Director Deere.
Me too, me three.
Okay, same here. Thank you. So then that takes us to closed session, and we're going to recess to closed session, and we all have the information on how to get into the closed session. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that's been sent out, President Williams.
That's going to be go-to, correct?
That's correct. So we'll have to log out of this meeting and reopen the new meeting in closed session.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll be convening under government code section 54956.9 to discuss LA Waterkeeper versus West Basin, Rastigar versus West Basin. Also 54956.8 to discuss real property concerning 405 Maple Avenue, Torrance, California, and 54956.9 to discuss two items of potential litigation.
Hello,
Hello?
it's Director Gray.
Director Gray, Director Williams here. I'm trying to get a hold of that administrative staff.
Great. Okay, Director. Thanks.
I don't know what happened here. Let me call Julie.
President Williams, this is Craig
Oh,
Headwater.
yes.
I think you're just more efficient than the rest, so hopefully they'll log
Don't say that.
in. Don't say you're more efficient. I think it's a compliment.
Well, not in this day and age. All right.
Still is in my book.
Well, thank you.
NGOs that are taking money from us, contribution, and then turn around and sue us. I think we ought to cut them off.
Hello, President Williams, can you hear us now? President Williams, I believe you're on mute now.
There's no green. There it is. Now he's on.
Julie?
We can hear you now.
Just talking to Julie.
I'm gonna get up here. Unmute. He's muted.
We're going to have to cancel these non-in-person meetings. They're very inconvenient. It's a lot of time.
Okay, so we're ready to join and Director Gray from the line.
I mean, I could do it. It's so easy. They have to share problems, don't they?
All right, team. Time, we're going to reconvene. Is everyone here?
Yes, we are.
All right, Stan, we're going to reconvene and the general counsel will report out from our closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board met under section 14A of the Government Code section 5495649 to discuss existing litigation. On Rastigar versus West Basin, the report was given to the board. On LA Waterkeeper versus West Basin, the report was given to the board and instruction was given to council. On item 14B, conference with real property negotiators concerning 405 Maple Avenue in Torrance, California, the board gave instructions legal counsel, potential litigation, 2 cases under section 549, 56.9. The board gave instruction to counsel. That concludes my closed session report.
Thank you. That moves us to item 15, which is director's comments, future agenda items. Any comments?
Yeah, this is Director Houston. Just real quick, a couple things. I think one is, I think it was brought up about translation services twice now. So maybe staff don't have to answer now, but that should be something we definitely look at. If we have a staff member or how are we going to be able to do that on the fly. So I don't know if anybody wants to answer at this moment, but do we have a plan for that or something? Because it's become an issue.
Staff has discussed it internally. When we are out in the community, we have several staff members that can assist us with that. We have discussed that we might need some services. Obviously, when you're translating for a member of the public here at a public meeting, we want to make sure that we're very precise about the translation. So we can take a look to see about hiring a contractor or somebody to provide those services. It has come up the past 2 meetings. I've been at the district for over 15 years, and these are the first 2 times, unfortunately. So we can take a look and see what we can bring back.
Okay. And then if you guys would provide the board a translation of what was said, because at the last meeting it happened and I haven't seen it, and then this one, same story. So, let's see. Secondly, on I think it was E&O a couple months back, and we didn't get to finish it, but is it the recycled water master plan? What was it we were talking about, but we never finished?
There was a presentation on the recycled water master plan.
Okay.
And it's a pretty dense document, so they were running through it. I do not believe that the committee finished that.
Okay.
We can definitely bring
So I'm just bringing that back to the board's attention because I feel like there was a lot of meat in it. We never finished it, and the board's never given clear direction to staff. So I just don't want that to fall by the wayside. So, if that ends up coming back to E&O or however you do it, I just don't want us to forget. So that's my request. Let's see. A couple more things. The technical difficulties, obviously we saw today, immense technical difficulties, and I think Director Deere just said it too. It's like these hybrid meetings are even hard for us. So I think it only reinforces we've got to try and do our best to be here amongst ourselves, and then also figure out a better way to record, et cetera, because it's just been excruciating. 2 more things. One, I just want to thank staff. I want to thank staff for the work you're doing. I really want to thank you for these calendars right here that go out a couple more months. That's extremely appreciated. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I do appreciate that. As well as, by the way, my emails are getting returned very quickly. I appreciate that. And then last but not least, I do want to personally express my congratulations to the new general manager of Metropolitan Water District, Adel Haji Khalil. So if you could put that in the minutes, that I express my personal congratulations to him as he begins his new job at Metropolitan. And with that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
President Williams, just brief comment. I want to thank staff for the reports today. Thank you very much. And I heard Director Houston mention the hybrid meeting. I think we're all going to try to make an effort to come to the meeting, especially starting in August, if that's the target. But I am on vacation, so because it's a hybrid meeting, it allowed me to participate today. So it is an opportunity for us to participate when we're not able to be physically there. So, but thank you, staff, to the meeting for the reports today. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Hearing none. My thanks to everybody for showing up today and participating. And this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Did you report out?